If someone had told me pretending would feel more honest than anything I've known, I wouldn't have believed it. And yet here we are. I was the act. She's the truth. It was supposed to be one night, just one. No feelings, no risk, only a transaction, a part to play. Yet as Aria Kincaid stepped out of the sleek black town car and slid her arm through the stranger's, something cinched in her chest, something perilously close to anticipation. She hated that, especially tonight, especially here, with her ex-fiancé inside that grand estate, toasting a spotless new life with a spotless new woman. The irony was suffocating. Aria Kincaid, billionaire tech mogul, Forbes' darling. The woman who built an empire before 35 was crashing her ex's engagement party with a fake girlfriend on her arm. A fake girlfriend she'd hired 3 days ago through a high-end, exquisitely discreet agency. And the worst part, she looked better than any woman had a right to. "You ready?" the woman asked, voice low, sultry, confident enough to make Aria want to flinch. Or maybe melt. Her name was Nova. Just Nova. No last name. No backstory beyond what they'd rehearsed. Artist based in LA. Met Aria at an exhibit in Berlin. Dating for 5 months. Deeply, irrevocably in love. It was all, but when Nova smiled, it didn't feel like it. "Let's go make your ex regret everything," Nova purred, her fingers tightening around Aria's forearm with a possessiveness that sent electricity shooting through her spine. Aria didn't respond. She couldn't. Her heart was already pounding too fast. Not from nerves. She didn't do nerves. But from the terrifying possibility that Nova might not be playing at all. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. The mansion doors opened and music spilled out. Soft jazz, classy, expensive, the kind of thing her ex Lydia Monroe had always preferred. A server offered champagne as they entered, and Aria took a glass mostly to avoid clenching her fists. Nova took hers, too, but she didn't drink. She just looked at Aria, eyes gleaming with something unreadable, something dangerous. "This place is crawling with money," Nova murmured. "Just for her," scanning the gilded walls, the dripping chandeliers, the men in tailored suits, and women in polished smiles. "Fitting since you're the richest one here. Flattery's part of the act, I assume," Aria asked, sipping. "Oh no," Nova said, leaning in, voice brushing against her ear. "That one's free." Aria's skin broke out in goosebumps. She was losing control of the situation. She never lost control. That was why she'd planned everything so carefully. That was why she'd hired Nova in the first place. To play the part of a devoted girlfriend, turn heads, make Lydia jealous, then disappear. Simple, clean, strategic. But Nova wasn't following the plan. She was too convincing, too confident, too dangerous. And Aria had a terrible suspicion that she wasn't the only one faking something tonight. Aria Kincaid, the voice that interrupted her thoughts, belonged to Lydia's mother. Always perfectly coiffed. Always half an inch from disapproval. "We didn't expect to see you here." "I got the invitation," Aria replied, her tone polite and lethal all at once. "Must have been a clerical error." The older woman's gaze shifted to Nova. "And this is my girlfriend," Aria said simply, slipping into the lie like a second skin. Nova smiled, extending a hand. "Nova, it's lovely to meet you." There was a pause, sharp and judgmental, but Nova didn't falter. She looked like she belonged there, draped in a deep emerald gown that hugged her curves and made her eyes shine like polished jade. Aria had chosen the dress herself. She didn't think it would look that good. "Well," the woman said tightly, "enjoy the party." They barely had a second to breathe before Lydia appeared. Like a ghost summoned by tension and regret, Aria froze. She hadn't seen her in person in over a year. Lydia looked radiant, of course, golden, effortless, still wearing the same perfume Aria could smell in her dreams. And yet her smile faltered the second she saw Nova. "Arya," she said. And there it was. That soft tilt. That fake surprise. "You came. Would have been rude not to," Arya replied, voice smooth, steel-wrapped. "Congratulations, Lydia. And who's this?" Lydia's gaze dropped to their interlocked hands. Nova took a step closer to Arya, her body fitting against hers with practiced intimacy. "Nova," she said, offering a devastating smile. "Arya's girlfriend." The word landed like a slap. Lydia blinked, just once. "I didn't know you were seeing anyone." "There's a lot you don't know," Arya said, and for the first time in months, she felt like she'd won something. But Nova wasn't looking at Lydia. She was looking at her, and the expression on her face wasn't part of the act anymore. That was the moment Arya knew she'd made a mistake, because Nova wasn't just playing the part, she was stealing the spotlight. She wasn't there to help Arya reclaim her pride. She was becoming the story. And Arya was starting to forget which parts were pretend. They spent the next hour weaving through the crowd, pretending to be a couple, pretending to laugh, pretending to be deeply in love. Except Nova didn't seem like she was pretending at all. She touched Arya like she meant it, looked at her like she wanted her, and Arya, despite every warning bell in her head, let herself lean in just a little, just enough to feel the edge of something that terrified her. "You okay?" Nova asked at one point, eyes searching hers. "You don't have to keep it together for me. I don't know what you're talking about." Arya replied, voice tight. "Sure," Nova said softly, "but when you're done pretending to be bulletproof, I'll still be here." That was the second moment Arya realized she was in trouble, because for the first time in a year, she didn't want to be alone. She didn't want this night to end. And when Nova kissed her in the corner of the ballroom, soft, slow, devastating, Arya kissed her back like it was real, like it mattered, like she already knew it would change everything. Arya hadn't planned on the kiss, not in any of the rehearsed lines or calculated movements she laid out for the night. It had been spontaneous, stupid, dangerous. And yet, her lips still tingled from the way Nova had pressed into her, slow and sure, like she knew exactly what she was doing, like she wasn't acting at all. Now back in the guest bathroom of the estate, Arya gripped the edge of the marble sink, breathing in short, sharp bursts. The room spun just slightly, not from the champagne. She'd barely touched it, but from the unfamiliar sensation of losing control. Nova had seen too much, felt too much, said too much. "When you're done pretending to be bulletproof, I'll still be here." The words had been a whisper, but they echoed now, louder than the jazz drifting through the walls. Arya looked at herself in the mirror. Perfect makeup, immaculate dress, every inch the image of power. But her eyes betrayed her. Behind them was a storm she hadn't prepared for. A knock sounded at the door. "Arya," Nova's voice. Low, soft, stilled to steady. "Are you okay?" "I needed a minute," she called back, forcing steel into her tone. "You kissed me. You kissed me back," Nova replied without hesitation. There was a beat of silence, then more quietly. "Was it that bad?" Arya opened the door. Nova stood there with one hand against the door frame, her body relaxed, her expression unreadable. "That's not the point," Arya said. "Then what is the point?" Nova stepped inside without invitation, closing the door behind her. "That I didn't follow your plan to the letter, or that it felt real. And now you don't know what to do with it. This isn't a game. No, it's not. It's a performance one you hired me to give. So tell me, Arya, do you want me to turn it down or turn it all the way up?" Her voice had dropped husky and intimate, and Arya hated how her body responded. Heat bloomed in her chest, her neck, her core. "I want you to remember your role," she said tightly. "Which is what?" Nova asked, stepping closer. "Your fake girlfriend or the woman who just made your ex look like she swallowed a lemon?" Arya exhaled sharply, turning away. She didn't want to admit how satisfying that moment had been. seeing Lydia's perfect composure crack when Nova's lips touched hers. But it wasn't just about revenge anymore. That was the problem. She didn't want to want Nova. And yet she did. "You're making this more complicated than it needs to be," Arya muttered. "I'm not the one hiding in the bathroom," Nova said softly. That hit its mark. Arya turned to face her again, ready to snap. But the words caught in her throat. Nova's expression had changed. She looked gentle, not smug, not seductive, just honest. "You can't fake chemistry like that," Nova said. "Not really, and I think you know it." Arya's phone buzzed on the marble counter. A text from an unknown number. "You look radiant tonight. Shay took someone else to make you smile again." Her stomach flipped. Lydia, of course. She hated that Lydia still had that effect on her. Knew which strings to pull, which words to use to get under her skin. Nova glanced at the screen, and then at her. "That from her?" "Yes. Want me to kiss you again in front of everyone?" There was no teasing in her voice, no playfulness, just a quiet, dangerous offer. "Would that help?" Arya swallowed. "You don't have to go that far. Maybe I want to." "Why?" "Because it's fun watching you unravel," Nova said. But then she added more softly, "And because I like the way you taste when you stop pretending." Arya stared at her. The room suddenly felt too small, too hot. She needed air. "Come on," she said briskly, brushing past her. "We've got more pretending to do." Back in the ballroom, the energy had shifted. Eyes followed them now, some curious, some envious. Lydia stood across the room, her fiancé, Tessa Voss. Arya remembered vaguely engaged in polite conversation with a group of donors. But Lydia's eyes were locked on them. Arya felt Nova slip her arm around her waist, pulling her just close enough to be inappropriate. It worked. Lydia's jaw tensed. "She's watching," Nova whispered. "Good," Arya replied. And this time, she initiated the kiss. Not as soft as the first, not as tentative. This one was bolder, deeper, meant to be seen, meant to be felt. Nova responded immediately, her hands sliding up Arya's back, her mouth hot and hungry, her body pressing flush against hers. And when they pulled apart, Arya didn't need to look at Lydia to know she'd succeeded. But success didn't taste like satisfaction. It tasted like danger, like temptation, like fire. Later, as the party wounded down and the car finally pulled up to the curb, Nova slipped into the back seat beside her without a word. The silence stretched thick between them until Nova broke it. "You don't need to explain." "Good," Arya said, staring out the window, but then softer. "That was reckless." "No," Nova said. "That was real, and I think that scares you more than her." Arya turned to her, lips parting. But before she could speak, Nova leaned in again, not for a kiss this time, but to whisper against her throat, just under her ear. "You hired me to pretend, but if you keep looking at me like that, I might start forgetting what's fake." Arya's breath hitched. She didn't sleep that night, not because of the kiss, not because of Lydia, but because she couldn't stop thinking about Nova's hands, Nova's mouth, Nova's voice, and the terrifying possibility that for the first time in years, she was finally feeling something again, and she didn't know how to make it stop. Arya had always known how to compartmentalize. It was what made her brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. She kept her personal life in one box, her business empire in another, and anything remotely emotional locked in a vault so deep, no one could ever find it. But Nova was prying the lid open without even trying. The day after the party should have been simple, clean break, payment processed, experience deleted. But Arya hadn't even made it through her morning espresso before Nova's name lit up her phone. Again. "Come downstairs." No context, no explanation, just that she almost didn't go, almost ignored it, deleted the message, and went back to pretending the kiss hadn't happened. But something stronger pulled her toward the private elevator of her penthouse. When the doors opened, Nova was standing there in a white button-down shirt tucked into black jeans. hair pulled into a low messy bun, no makeup, and holding to coffee cups like she belonged in Arya's life, like she'd always belonged. I brought peace offerings, Nova said, lifting the coffee with a small grin. Didn't think you'd let me up if I buzzed. What are you doing here? Arya asked, arms folded, trying not to show the spike in her heartbeat. You didn't call, didn't text. I figured I either terrified you last night or intrigued you. It was a job, Arya said flatly. You got paid, did I? Nova stepped forward because I'm pretty sure that kiss was overtime. Arya's jaw clenched. You said you wouldn't blur the lines. You blurred them first. Nova's voice was soft, but there was an edge there. You looked at me like you wanted more than a performance. You kissed me like you forgot we were pretending. I didn't forget. Then why haven't you stopped thinking about it? Arya faltered just for a second and Nova saw it. You have 5 minutes, Arya said stiffly, turning away. Then you leave. Nova followed her inside, kicking the door shut behind her. The apartment was glass and marble, all cold luxury, the kind of space that looked lived in only by ghosts. Nova sat on the edge of the cream leather couch, uninvited, casual, like she'd done it 1,000 times. You looked miserable last night, she said after a moment, even after the kiss, especially after the kiss. So, you came here to remind me. No, Nova said. I came because I think you're lying to yourself. Arya's laugh was sharp. You don't know me, don't I? Nova stood again, walking slowly toward her. I've watched the way you hold your breath when Lydia's name comes up. The way you try to calculate every move like people are equations you can solve. You're not heartless, Arya. You're terrified. You don't get to psychoanalyze me. Then let me be clear, Nova said, stopping just in front of her. I don't want money from you. I don't want favors. I came here because I liked kissing you, and I want to do it again. Not because of some contract, but because I want to know what it's like when you kiss me for real. Arya's breath caught. Her walls, always so well constructed, cracked just a little. This isn't how this was supposed to go. I know, Nova whispered, but maybe that's what makes it worth it. The silence between them pulsed like a heartbeat. And then Arya moved. She didn't think, didn't strategize. She just closed the space between them and kissed her. Rougher this time, more desperate. Hands tangled in Nova's shirt like she needed something to hold on to. Before she shattered completely, Nova responded immediately, her arms wrapping around Arya's waist, pulling her in until their bodies were flush. The coffee cups dropped to the floor, forgotten. Arya pushed her back against the wall, her lips trailing down Nova's jaw, her breath uneven. You're dangerous, she murmured against her skin. You make me forget who I am. Good, Nova said, tilting her head to capture Arya's mouth again. Then maybe you're finally becoming someone real. They made it to the bedroom in a blur of hands and heat. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It wasn't. But the second Nova's shirt hit the floor and Arya's hands found skin, reason evaporated. Every kiss, every gasp, every breathless whisper peeled back another layer Arya didn't know she'd been hiding behind. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel untouchable. She felt seen, raw, alive. Afterward, the silence was heavier than before, but not uncomfortable. Nova lay beside her, sheets tangled around her waist, watching the city skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Arya sat up, back against the headboard, a rare vulnerability in her eyes. This complicates everything, she said. Nova turned to her. Why? Because I don't do this. I don't let people in. Maybe it's time you start it. What if I ruin it? Arya asked the question so soft it barely existed. Nova reached out, her fingers brushing against Arya's wrist. Then ruin me. I'm not afraid of you. That was the third moment Arya knew she was in trouble because she was already halfway ruined. And Nova didn't seem like the type to leave pieces behind. Arya woke before the sun, not because of the light. Her penthouse had blackout curtains, but because her mind had never learned how to rest. Not really. Not since Lydia. Not since the day everything cracked. And she decided the safest way to survive was to feel nothing at all. But Nova had shattered that. She lay beside her now, deep asleep, her dark lashes casting shadows over her cheekbones. One arm flung over the pillow like she belonged there, like she'd always belonged there. Arya sat on the edge of the bed, her bare feet on the cold floor, staring at the skyline she no longer recognized. Everything was shifting, and she didn't like it. She'd kissed Nova again and again last night, not because of some role, not for show, but because she wanted to, needed to, and that terrified her more than anything. Arya Kincaid didn't need, she commanded, she controlled. But with Nova, all her defenses felt flimsy, childish, transparent. She got dressed quietly and left the bedroom, the silence of the morning thick around her. She needed clarity, space, distance. She needed to remember that this had all started as a performance. And if she wasn't careful, it was going to end as something a lot more dangerous. By the time Nova woke up, Arya was gone, the bed cold, the apartment silent. There was a note on the nightstand. Had to take a call. Help yourself to anything. Nova stared at it for a long time. 14 words. Not even a smiley. Not even a lie about let's do this again. She got dressed, left the apartment without touching a single thing, and didn't look back. Arya, meanwhile, wasn't on a call. She was in her car, driving aimlessly through the city like she used to in her 20s. Back when the world still felt like it had corners worth exploring. Her mind wouldn't stop replaying last night. The feel of Nova's hands, the sound of her voice, the way she looked at Arya like she mattered. It was maddening because now Arya had a problem she couldn't solve with money or silence. She'd started something and she didn't know how to end it without breaking herself or worse. Breaking Nova. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. Then it buzzed again. Finally, she checked it. Lydia, we should talk. Not about the party. About us. Arya felt like the air had been knocked out of her. Us. That word hadn't meant anything in over a year. It shouldn't mean anything now. But it did. Against her will. Against her logic. Lydia was still a wound that hadn't healed. Still a name that made her spine stiffen. Still a temptation. Don't answer, she told herself. But her fingers were already moving. Come by the office at 3 o'clock. Back at her building, Nova stood outside the elevator, her arms crossed, trying to talk herself out of caring. It had been one night, one contract, one kiss. Okay, several kisses that didn't mean anything. At least that's what she kept telling herself. But her gut said otherwise. Arya had looked at her like she wanted something real, and then disappeared like a ghost. Nova got on the elevator, punched the button, changed her mind halfway, and stepped out again. She wasn't going to wait around like a fool. She'd been honest. She'd risked something, and if Arya didn't want it, that was fine. She'd walk away. She'd done it before. She could do it again. But the truth was, Arya had already started living under her skin. By 3 o'clock, Lydia walked into Arya's office as if no time had passed. Same confident smile. Same predatory elegance. Nice place, she said, eyes grazing the glass walls and clean lines. But then again, you always liked control. Why are you here? Arya asked, flat. Lydia sat, crossing her legs with deliberate grace. I saw you last night. With her. She's not real. Arya said nothing. You don't have to pretend, Lydia went on, leaning in. I know you. I know what we had. What we still have. There's nothing left between us, Arya said unconvincingly, even to herself. Then why answer my text? Lydia's smile was cruel and soft at once. You think this little performance will save you from feeling? I know you better than that. You don't know me anymore, Arya snapped. You never did. Then tell me, Arya, did you hire her just to make me jealous? Or are you so afraid of being alone you'll pay someone to pretend they care? That one hit. Arya flinched, and Lydia caught it. I'm not here to fight, Lydia said, voice lowering. I'm here because I regret how it ended. You ended it, Arya said. You walked away because I was scared, because you wouldn't let me in. I tried, Arya whispered. You never saw it. I see it now. The silence between them was nothing like the quiet she shared with Nova. This one was stale, crowded with history and resentment, with things that couldn't be undone. Lydia reached forward and brushed a strand of hair from Arya's face. We could try again. For one awful second, Arya didn't pull away. She didn't say no, because she was confused and raw and still bleeding. I need time, she managed. Lydia smiled like she'd already won. Of course you do. When she left, the room felt colder. Arya stared out at the city, her reflection hollow in the glass. She didn't go home that night, and Nova didn't call. But neither of them slept. Nova wasn't angry, not at first. She was disappointed, which was worse. Anger is clean, hot, and brief. Disappointment hangs in the chest like smoke, a scent that won't wash off. 2 days passed 48 hours of silence. No texts. No explanations. Not even a softening lie. Nova had let herself believe, just for a heartbeat, that Arya might be different, might be worth the risk. That night in the penthouse had felt real. Not polished, not rehearsed, raw and chaotic, and full of emotion that couldn't be faked. But apparently for Arya, it had been just another role, another performance, another way to escape what she couldn't face. Nova tossed her phone onto the couch and paced the apartment. She wasn't good at waiting, and she definitely wasn't good at being forgotten. She had half a mind to walk away, to erase Arya from her memory, like every other mistake she'd survived. But the other half, the foolish, aching human half, wanted answers. So she sent a message, just for words. Say it was nothing, and waited. Arya read the message on her office balcony, the city buzzing below her, a glass of untouched bourbon in her hand. Her throat tightened. She could barely breathe. Nova's words were a punch to the ribs. Not angry, not bitter, just devastatingly clear. She hadn't said anything because she didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to apologize for something she hadn't meant to ruin. And yet somehow she had. She typed, deleted, retyped. Nothing sounded right. Nothing felt enough. Finally, she sent it wasn't nothing. I'm just not good at this. The response came fast. Then get good or let me go. Arya stared at the screen. Her chest ached. Nova wasn't bluffing. She was giving her a choice. A line in the sand. And Arya had never been more terrified to cross something in her life. She closed her eyes and thought about that night. The way Nova had touched her like she was made of more than steel and stone. The way she looked at her like she saw everything and didn't flinch. She thought about Lydia's offer to try again and how cold it had felt. Like stepping into a memory that didn't fit anymore. Then she did something she hadn't done in years. She turned off her phone, grabbed her coat, and walked out of the office without telling a soul. Nova lived in a small loft over an art gallery in West Hollywood. When the elevator opened and Arya stepped out onto the rooftop hallway, she was hit with a sudden rush of doubt. What if Nova didn't want to see her? What if she'd already decided Arya wasn't worth the pain? But then the door opened. Nova stood there barefoot, wearing nothing but an oversized sweater and a look of quiet fury. Took you long enough, she said. I know. Arya's voice cracked. Nova didn't invite her in. Are you here to lie to me again, or to kiss me until I forget you disappeared? Neither, Arya said. I'm here to say I was scared and selfish, and that I'm sorry. Nova folded her arms. For which part? For wanting you and pretending I didn't. For needing you and not knowing how to say it. For treating you like something temporary when you were the only real thing I felt in years. The silence was brutal, and then Nova stepped aside just slightly. You can come in, but if you walk out again, don't come back. Arya walked in. The loft smelled like oil paint and cinnamon. Messy, lived in, warm. Everything her world wasn't. I didn't know how to handle it, Arya said quietly. You made me feel things I wasn't ready to feel. That's not my fault, Nova replied. I know. I'm not here to fix you, Arya. I'm not some project you can build and walk away from. I don't want you to fix me, Arya said, stepping closer. I want you to stay, and I want to try. Try what? Nova asked. Being real? Arya whispered. With you. That was the moment Nova's expression softened. Just a fraction. It's not going to be easy. I'm not asking for easy. Then what are you asking for? Arya hesitated, then reached out and took Nova's hand. Dinner tomorrow. No scripts. No pretending. Just you and me. A real date. Nova studied her face for a long moment. Then finally, she nodded. Okay. Arya felt something uncoil in her chest. Something long forgotten. Hope? Okay, she echoed. She didn't kiss her that night. Didn't push. Just held Nova's hand until their fingers fit naturally again. And for the first time since the engagement party, she stopped running. She stayed. Arya didn't do restaurants. Not in the way normal people did. She reserved entire dining rooms, cleared floors, paid chefs double to keep things private. She wasn't being dramatic. She was being careful. Her name attracted attention. And after what had happened between her and Nova, the last thing she wanted was an audience. But Nova didn't want control. She wanted real. So Arya made the reservation at a quiet rooftop spot in Silver Lake. The kind of place she'd normally avoid. It was dimly lit. All warm wood and hanging plants with a view of the city that felt intimate instead of grand. Vulnerable, not performative. She arrived early, wore a dark green dress, simple, unguarded, no designer logos, no prestailored stiffness. She didn't want to intimidate Nova tonight. She wanted to meet her as equals, as women, as something that could become more. Nova arrived 10 minutes late, her hair loose, wearing soft black slacks and a silk blouse that caught the candlelight in all the right places. When she saw Arya, something in her expression cracked, just a little relief maybe, or forgiveness. You clean up nice, Nova said, sliding into the seat across from her. So, do you? Arya replied. And for once, it didn't feel like armor, just truth. They talked about books, films, childhood, things that didn't feel safe until now. Arya let Nova see her laugh. Really laugh. Not the polite boardroom smile. Not the calculated charm. A real unguarded laugh that made her eyes wrinkle at the corners. Nova told stories, gesturing with her hands, sipping wine slowly, like she wasn't in a hurry to run. Arya watched her like someone memorizing light. But just as the night began to feel like something close to perfect, a shadow cut through the warmth. Arya Kincaid, a voice said from the left. Male, familiar, cold. She turned slowly and froze. No, Graham, she said carefully. Nova tensed. The man was tall, sharply dressed, with that effortless smirk that only men with inherited power wore. Didn't expect to see you here, he said, eyes flicking toward Nova, then back to Arya. And with company. I'm busy, Graham. Clearly, he didn't leave. Instead, he stepped closer. You ignored my last 3 emails, and now I'm going to ignore your face. Walk away. But Graham just laughed. You know, I always found it fascinating how quickly you latched on to distractions whenever things got real. First, Lydia. Now this one. Arya's jaw clenched. Don't you think pretending you're some romantic hero changes the fact that the board is watching you? That your personal life doesn't bleed into business? This isn't the time. It's exactly the time. You may think you're untouchable, but you're not, Arya. You don't get to build an empire and still act like a teenager in love. Nova stood slowly. Her expression wasn't angry. It was calm, lethal. You should leave, she said to him, voice low. Graham smiled, eyes scanning her like a threat. And you are the woman who will break your jaw if you don't walk away in the next 10 seconds. For a moment, no one moved. Then Graham stepped back, raising both hands mockingly. You've got a tight pale, Fiery, temporary, and then he left. The silence he left behind wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Arya couldn't look at Nova, couldn't meet her eyes. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "He's on the board of my parent company. I didn't know he'd be here." "Does it matter?" Nova said what he said. "Was it true?" Arya looked up. "Which part that you run from things when they get real?" The answer didn't come easily. "I used to, and now. Arya reached across the table. "I'm still learning how not to." Nova studied her hand, then took it. But the moment had shifted, and Arya could feel it. Later that night, in her car, Nova was quiet. The city blurred past the windows, but neither of them was looking. "Do you still talk to Lydia?" Nova asked suddenly. Arya's breath caught. "No, but she came to your office, didn't she?" "How do you know that?" "I don't," Nova said, "but I figured it out. You disappeared the next day. You left me in your bed like a prop you didn't know what to do with. I panicked." "I get that. But if there's still something between you and her..." "There's not." Arya's voice cracked. "There's history. There's pain. But she's not what I want anymore." Nova turned her head, finally looking at her. "Then what do you want?" Arya hesitated. "You?" Nova didn't answer. Not right away, but when they reached her building, she leaned in and kissed Arya. Not soft, not tender, but like she needed to taste the truth of that answer. "Then don't screw it up," she whispered. "Because I'm not Lydia. I don't give second chances." Arya didn't sleep again. She'd spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, Nova's words echoing over and over in her head. "Don't screw it up. I don't give second chances." She meant it. Arya could feel it like a stone in her chest, heavy and unmoving. This wasn't a game anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. Nova had become more than a distraction, more than a shield against Lydia. She was now the risk Arya wanted to take. But wanting wasn't enough. Arya had spent her whole life building walls with steel and silence. Now she needed to break them down piece by piece, and she had no idea how. That morning, she canceled her meetings, told her assistant to reroute all calls. She needed space. She needed to think, and more than anything, she needed to see Nova again. Not just to fix what had fractured the night before, but to offer something she'd never given anyone, the full truth. She stared at her phone for 15 minutes before calling. It rang once, twice. Then Nova picked up. "You're brave," Nova said instead of hello. "Or stupid." "I'm both," Arya said quietly. "But I want to see you. You saw me last night. That wasn't enough." "I'm working," Nova replied, her voice unreadable. "You can come by the studio if you want, but I'm not dropping everything for you. I wouldn't ask you to." The call ended. The silence left behind felt colder than the dial tone. When Arya arrived at the small West Hollywood studio, she wasn't prepared for what she saw. Nova was standing barefoot on a large canvas, covered in paint, her body moving with rhythm and focus, headphones in, lost in her own world. Color streaked her hands, her thighs, the hem of her black tank top. She looked like chaos in creation all at once. Beautiful, untouchable. Arya didn't speak. She waited until Nova noticed her. When their eyes finally met, Nova pulled the headphones out and exhaled like she was already exhausted by whatever conversation was coming. "You showed up. I said I would. People say a lot of things they don't mean. I mean this." Arya stepped inside slowly, carefully, as if the studio were sacred ground. In a way, it was. Nova's world was messy, emotional, open. Everything Arya's wasn't. "Why do you love this?" Arya asked softly, looking around at the canvases, the brushes, the wild color. "Because there's no right way to do it," Nova said. "Because it's messy and painful and beautiful. Because you can ruin something and still make it mean something." "I want to try," Arya said. "To be part of it. To be part of you." Nova looked at her long hard. "I don't need you to fix yourself first, Arya. I just need you to stop hiding from me." That's all I've ever needed. I know. Then show me. Arya walked forward, took Nova's hand. Her fingers were stained with blue and gold and red. Arya didn't care. She pulled her close, chest to chest, heartbeat to heartbeat. Ask me anything, Arya whispered. I won't lie to you. Why did you stay with Lydia so long? Nova asked immediately. Because she made me feel like I wasn't hard to love. Until she didn't. Nova's breath hitched. And me, what am I? You're the person who terrifies me most, Arya said. Because when I'm with you, I want to be honest, even when it hurts. Nova searched her face. And when you're not with me, I hate myself for the silence. That was the moment Nova kissed her again. This time slow. This time without anger or urgency, just truth. Her fingers tangled in Arya's hair. Her paint-smeared hands leaving traces on Arya's skin. And Arya didn't care about the mess. She welcomed it. They made love on the floor of the studio between half-finished canvases and the scent of oil and turpentine. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Arya moaned Nova's name like a prayer, like a confession, and Nova whispered hers like a promise. Afterwards, they lay tangled in the chaos, chests rising and falling in unison. Arya traced a line of red paint across Nova's collarbone. Do you believe me now? I'm starting to, Nova said, but belief is earned. Then I'll earn it. But just as the moment settled into something warm and whole, Arya's phone buzzed from across the room. Reluctantly, she got up, checked it, froze. Nova sat up. What is it? Arya turned the screen. It was a photo of the two of them from the restaurant sent from an anonymous number. Thought your investors might enjoy this. Nova's face went pale. Someone's watching you. Someone's trying to use you against me. Lydia or Graham? Arya muttered. Or both. She stared at the screen while rising in her throat. They think you're leverage. Are they wrong? Nova asked quietly. Arya looked at her. They're going to regret ever thinking that. Arya wasn't afraid of threats. She'd received them before. Veiled, direct, even poetic once. Courtesy of an art tech rival who thought metaphors softened sabotage. But this time was different. This time, someone had targeted Nova, and that made it personal. Her mind went cold the second she saw the message. Anonymous number, a grainy photo of them from the restaurant, midlife. Hands nearly touching across candlelight. Thought your investors might enjoy this. That wasn't just a threat. It was a warning, a game, a test of how far Arya would go to keep her private life private. Nova's eyes scanned the message twice. Then she stood, pulling on her oversized paint-splattered hoodie like the cold had suddenly found her. You should go, she said quietly. What? I said you should go, Arya. No, you came to be honest. So let's be honest. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't agree to be watched, followed, dragged into whatever corporate mess is brewing in your world. I'm not leaving. You should, she repeated, voice fraying. Before it gets worse. Arya stepped forward. Nova stepped back. I don't need protection. I need peace. I can give you that, Arya said, but not if you shove me away now. Nova's gaze sharpened. You think this is about you? About a headline or a photo? I'm scared of falling in love with someone who doesn't know how to hold people without hurting them. It landed like a slap. Arya didn't move, didn't argue. She knew it was true. She didn't know how to hold without gripping, without crushing. I won't be another casualty of your past, Nova whispered. And right now, I don't know if you can let someone survive your love. Then I'll prove it. Arya said, low and steady. Starting now. Nova turned away. Her silence weighed more than a scream. Arya left not surrender, strategy. This wasn't over. She didn't sleep. She went straight to the office, summoned security, PR, legal. No one went home. Not until they had names. Not until she knew who sent the photo. Not until she could make them bleed figuratively. Unless pushed. By morning, she had the answer. Graham. Of course. He had board access, press ties. and a long habit of trying to shake her chair since losing the leadership vote 3 years ago. Now he'd used Nova as leverage. His mistake was underestimating how far Arya would go to protect what was hers. She arrived early to the boardroom, took the head seat and ruffled, immaculate in a black suit that broadcast "Do not try me." Graham walked in smiling, as if the floor weren't about to drop. "Ms. Kincaid," he drawled. "Always a pleasure, Graham." She didn't blink. "Before we begin, I'd like to address a matter of misconduct." His smile dipped barely, but enough. "What sort of misconduct?" "You used company systems to access a private surveillance network," she said, sliding a folder across the table, "then leaked images to the press to manipulate investor confidence." The room went still. One of the other board members coughed. Graham didn't deny it. "Not exactly. You're in the public eye, Arya. What you do reflects on who I date is none of this company's business," she snapped. "But harassment, exploitation, illegal surveillance, that is. And I have the evidence." She slid a second folder across the table. "You have two choices. Resign quietly and never step foot near me or my company again, or fight me. And I'll make sure you're blacklisted from every tech and media company in the country before the week's out." Graham stared at her, then laughed cold and bitter. "All this over some fake girlfriend you hired." Arya stood slowly. "She stopped being fake the moment I realized I'd burned this company to the ground. If it meant keeping her safe." The room went dead silent. Graham's face twisted, but he saw the truth. Saw the fire in Arya's eyes. That meant she wasn't bluffing. He walked out without a word. That night, Arya went back to Nova Studio. She didn't knock, just waited, her coat damp from the LA drizzle, her heart thudding with something dangerously close to hope. The door opened. Nova stood there barefoot, quiet, tired. "You're soaked. I know you look like hell." "That's fair. What do you want, Arya?" Arya stepped into the light. "I want to show you who I am when I'm not scared. When I'm not hiding. I want to tell you that I destroyed a man's career today because he threatened you. Because you matter to me. Because I don't want to protect you like an asset. I want to fight for you like someone who finally knows what love is." Nova didn't speak. Her lips parted, but no words came out. "I've never said that before," Arya whispered. "Not like this. Not when it meant something." Nova looked at her, looked into her, and slowly, quietly, she pulled Arya inside. "Then prove it," she said. "Stay. Don't disappear this time. I'm not going anywhere." And she didn't. Arya woke up in Nova's bed, tangled in warm sheets and soft breath. For a moment, she didn't move, didn't speak. She just stared at the cracked ceiling and listened to Nova's breathing beside her, steady, real, grounding. There had been no sex that night, no urgency, no heat, just limbs wrapped around each other, skin against skin, and a silence that for the first time didn't hurt. It healed. She hadn't needed to prove anything with her body. She had shown everything with her presence. And Nova had let her stay. That was the win. But with morning came the wait. The question that always followed something beautiful. Can I keep it or will I break it like everything else? Arya sat up slowly. Nova stirred, eyes fluttering open. "You're still here," she whispered, voice husky from sleep. "You sound surprised a little," Nova said, shifting onto her side. "I've never seen you like this." "Like what?" "Soft." Arya gave a dry laugh. "Don't get used to it." "Oh, I plan to." The silence stretched again, but it was sweet this time, comforting until Nova spoke again. "So, what happens now?" "What do you mean?" "You torched a man's career for me. Confessed you love me. Stayed the night. Feels like something shifted." Arya nodded. "It did." "Then what's next?" Arya hesitated. "I don't know." Nova studied her. "Do you want this to be public?" "US. Eventually." "Eventually means you're still afraid." "Eventually means I want to do it right," Arya said. "Not out of reaction. Not out of rebellion. I want to be with you because it's us. Not because it's news. Nova nodded. She understood. But something in her eyes dimmed just slightly and Arya saw it. You don't believe me. I do, Nova said. I just don't trust time or timing. Arya wanted to reach for her, but her phone buzzed again and again. She checked the screen. Dozens of missed calls, emails, news alerts. Her name was everywhere, but not because of Graham, because of something else, something worse. Lydia, Arya Kincaid's former fiancé, tells all. She used me like she's using her new girlfriend. Nova sat up. What is it? Arya's throat tightened. It's Lydia. She opened the article. There were photos, quotes, statements from sources close to the couple, accusations, manipulation, implications that Nova had been bought like an accessory in Arya's revenge fantasy. She went public, Arya whispered. She told them everything. Everything? Nova asked carefully. The party us that I hired you. Arya looked up. She's painting you as a prop. Nova's face went still blank. Well, she's not wrong about the beginning, but she's wrong about everything else. Is she? The question cut deeper than Arya expected. Nova, I agreed to this. Arya, I agreed to pretend to help you make a point. So, maybe I was a prop. Maybe I let myself believe it was more. It is more. You know it is. Then, why does it still feel like I'm standing in her shadow? Nova stood, grabbing a hoodie from the floor. I told you I wouldn't survive being another casualty in your past. You're not, Arya said, standing too. You're not her, and I'm not who I was with her. This is different. Nova's eyes filled, not with anger, but something worse. Doubt? Then prove it publicly. Now. Not eventually. Not when it's convenient. Now. You want me to go public with us? I want to stop being something you're afraid to name. Arya stared at her. Her heart thudded like a warning. She wasn't afraid of business battles, corporate takeovers, hostile investors. But this was terrifying because it meant letting the world see. Letting them tear her apart. Letting them get to Nova, too. But love, real love, wasn't private. It didn't live in silence. Okay, Arya said, voice steady. Let's do it. Really, right now. She grabbed her phone, opened her social media app, took a photo. Nova, still raw, hoodie half in, no makeup, eyes wary. She snapped it anyway, typed the caption. This is Nova. She's not a distraction. She's not a prop. She's the reason I'm becoming someone better. And I love her. She hit post. The silence afterward was deafening. Nova stared at her. You didn't have to do that. You asked me to, but you didn't hesitate. No, Arya said, because if I lose everything because of this, at least I'll know I finally chose right. Nova crossed the room slowly and kissed her like a storm breaking. No more pretending. No more shadows. Just truth. Just them. Finally them. Arya woke up in Nova's bed, tangled in warm sheets and soft breath. For a moment, she didn't move, didn't speak. She just stared at the cracked ceiling and listened to Nova's breathing beside her, steady, real, grounding. There had been no sex that night, no urgency, no heat, just limbs wrapped around each other, skin against skin, and a silence that for the first time didn't hurt. It healed. She hadn't needed to prove anything with her body. She had shown everything with her presence. And Nova had let her stay. That was the win. But with morning came the weight. The question that always followed something beautiful. Can I keep it or will I break it like everything else? Arya sat up slowly. Nova stirred, eyes fluttering open. You're still here, she whispered, voice husky from sleep. You sound surprised a little, Nova said, shifting onto her side. I've never seen you like this. Like what? Soft. Arya gave a dry laugh. Don't get used to it. Oh, I plan to. The silence stretched again, but it was sweet this time. Comforting until Nova spoke again. So, what happens now? What do you mean? You torched a man's career for me. Confessed you love me. Stayed the night. Feels like something shifted. Arya nodded. It did. Then what's next? Arya hesitated. I don't know. Nova studied her. Do you want this to be public? US. Eventually. Eventually means you're still afraid. Eventually means I want to do it right. Arya said. Not out of reaction. Not out of rebellion. I want to be with you because it's us. Not because it's news. Nova nodded. She understood. But something in her eyes dimmed just slightly and Arya saw it. You don't believe me. I do, Nova said. I just don't trust time or timing. Arya wanted to reach for her, but her phone buzzed again and again. She checked the screen. Dozens of missed calls, emails, news alerts. Her name was everywhere, but not because of Graham, because of something else, something worse. Lydia. Arya Kincaid's former fiancé tells all. She used me like she's using her new girlfriend. Nova sat up. What is it? Arya's throat tightened. It's Lydia. She opened the article. There were photos, quotes, statements from sources close to the couple. Accusations, manipulation, implications that Nova had been bought like an accessory in Arya's revenge fantasy. She went public. Arya whispered. She told them everything. Everything? Nova asked carefully. The party us that I hired you. Arya looked up. She's painting you as a prop. Nova's face went still blank. Well, she's not wrong about the beginning, but she's wrong about everything else, is she? The question cut deeper than Arya expected. Nova, I agreed to this. Arya, I agreed to pretend to help you make a point. So, maybe I was a prop. Maybe I let myself believe it was more. It is more. You know it is. Then, why does it still feel like I'm standing in her shadow? Nova stood, grabbing a hoodie from the floor. I told you I wouldn't survive being another casualty in your past. You're not, Arya said, standing too. You're not her, and I'm not who I was with her. This is different. Nova's eyes filled, not with anger, but something worse. Doubt? Then prove it publicly. Now. Not eventually. Not when it's convenient. Now. You want me to go public with us? I want to stop being something you're afraid to name. Arya stared at her. Her heart thudded like a warning. She wasn't afraid of business battles, corporate takeovers, hostile investors. But this was terrifying because it meant letting the world see. Letting them tear her apart. Letting them get to Nova, too. But love, Ray. All love wasn't private. It didn't live in silence. Okay, Arya said, voice steady. Let's do it. Really? Right now. She grabbed her phone, opened her social media app, took a photo. Nova, still raw, hoodie half in, no makeup, eyes wary. She snapped it anyway, typed the caption. This is Nova. She's not a distraction. She's not a prop. She's the reason I'm becoming someone better. And I love her. She hit post. The silence afterward was deafening. Nova stared at her. You didn't have to do that. You asked me to, but you didn't hesitate. No, Arya said, because if I lose everything because of this, at least I'll know I finally chose right. Nova crossed the room slowly and kissed her like a storm breaking. No more pretending. No more shadows, just truth. Just them. Finally, them. The photo had barely been up for an hour when the headlines started rolling in. Arya Kincaid breaks silence. New romance or PR damage control. Nova from fake date to real problem. Arya Kincaid's power play. Love or leverage. Arya didn't flinch. Not outwardly, but Nova saw it. The slight twitch in her jaw. The way her fingers tightened around her phone. The flicker of pain she tried to bury beneath that famously unbothered expression. They were still in the loft, still barefoot, raw. Too vulnerable for the firestorm that was beginning to swell outside. Nova lowered her own phone. They're tearing you apart. I've survived worse. And me? Nova asked softly. Have I? That landed? Arya looked up. Her eyes suddenly filled with something sharp and real. I told you I'd protect you. You can't protect me from the internet, Nova said, or from your past, or from the way the world thinks love is a performance when it belongs to people like us. I'll shut it down, the press, the investors. I'll handle it. You can't fix this like a hostile takeover, Arya. Nova's voice cracked. You can't throw lawyers and money at it and expect it to go away. This is me. My name, my face, my art. Everything is public now. Arya stepped forward. Do you regret it? Nova hesitated. No, but I'm scared. So am I. They stood in that truth for a long time. Two powerful, stubborn women suddenly reduced to something delicate and real, human. Later that day, the backlash found Nova directly. A gossip blog twisted her work into mockery. A jealous critic accused her of sleeping her way into relevance. Her gallery social media was flooded with vitriol threats, slurs, doubt disguised as curiosity. People wanted to break her, not because she had done anything wrong, but because she had been seen. And Nova tried to ignore it for hours until the messages became too much. She threw her phone across the room. It shattered against the concrete. Arya was there in seconds. What happened? Nova didn't answer right away. She just sank to the floor, back against the wall, hands shaking. They're everywhere, she whispered, calling me a fraud, a fake. You're none of those things. They're saying my art is only relevant because I'm yours. Arya knelt beside her. Then let them say it. Let them scream into the void. But you and I know the truth. And I swear to you, Nova, I will not let them erase you. Not because of me. Not because of us. I don't know if I can do this, Nova said. I thought I could, but I didn't think it would be this ugly. Then let me be the one they aim at. Let me take the fire. Nova looked at her, tears trembling in her lashes. But you'll burn, too. I've already burned, Arya said. For years, I just didn't have anyone to burn for. That night, Nova didn't ask for space. She asked for closeness, for warmth, for silence, not because they had nothing to say, but because they finally didn't need to speak to be understood. They stayed curled up on the couch, wrapped in one blanket, one body, one heartbeat, until Arya's phone buzzed. A different kind of alert. Priority urgent board update. Shareholder vote called for emergency leadership review. Nova saw the screen. What does that mean? Arya exhaled. It means they're trying to remove me. Nova's breath caught because of this. Because they see me as unstable, distracted, weak. You're none of those things. But they don't care. They care about stock prices. Optics controlling the narrative. Nova stood. So what do? We fight. And if they force you out? Arya looked at her, jaw firm, fire in her eyes. Then I lose the company, but I don't lose you. Nova swallowed hard. You might lose everything. Arya stepped forward. Then let me ask you this. If I give up everything for us, will you stay? Nova didn't flinch. She stepped into her, pressed her hand against Arya's heart. Yes, and that was enough. Even if the world burned tomorrow, they had this for now. For real, the boardroom was ice, not in temperature, but in energy. Every seat filled with polished ambition and thinly veiled judgment. They didn't look at her the way they used to, not as the untouchable tech visionary, the prodigy CEO. To them, she'd become a liability, a woman audacious enough to love in plain sight. Arya walked in wearing deep navy, not black. Black was for mourning, and she refused to enter as if she'd already lost. No notes, no script, just truth. Her assistant tried to pass her a folder at the door. She didn't take it. Numbers weren't what she needed. Fire was. Miss Kincaid, the chairman began, voice smooth and cold. This emergency review has been convened in light of recent media issues and the resulting dip in investor confidence. We've prepared a list of... No, Arya said, her voice cutting clean through the room. You don't get to dress this up as strategy. This is a witch hunt. Heads turned. Eyes narrowed. You watched me build this company from a startup into a global force. You praised my leadership, my vision, my results. And the moment I let the world see I'm human, that I have a heart, you try to strip me of everything I built. It's more complex than that, another director said. Shareholders are concerned. They're concerned because you made them concerned, Arya snapped. Because one of you, Graham, abused internal systems, leaked private material, and spun a story that has nothing to do with performance and everything to do with power. Now you want to fix it by removing me, hoping the press will forget if the woman at the center disappears quietly. I won't. It's not personal, Miss Kincaid, the chairman said, leaning back. It's only personal, she answered. If this were about performance, I wouldn't be standing here. Revenue is up 23% this quarter. Our last 3 launches broke industry records. Our user base tripled in a year. The only thing that changed is I stopped pretending to be heartless. I chose to be seen. I chose her. Silence stretched thick, edged. Then an older, sharp-eyed board member spoke. Are you saying you're in a relationship with this woman? Officially? Yes. And you hired her first? Yes. A murmur rippled down the table. So it began as a performance. Yes, Arya said, unflinching. And it became real, more real than any contract I've ever signed. I won't deny it. I won't spin it. And I won't walk away from it to save your headlines. You're admitting to a PR deception. Someone else said, no, I'm admitting to being human. The chairman steepled his fingers. If we proceed with the vote, there's a strong chance the board will elect to remove you as CEO. Then vote, Arya said. But know this, if you vote me out, I walk with all my patents, all my code, all my IP. This company will survive, but it will never thrive without me. And I will rebuild everything I've lost from the ground up without you. The silence was suffocating. The chairman finally exhaled. We'll need time to discuss. Take it, Arya said, but understand, whatever happens, I will not apologize for loving someone. Not again. She walked out. Didn't wait for their verdict. In the hallway, her assistant stood pale, shaking. Do I still have a job? If I do, Arya said. You do? She didn't stop moving until she was outside, until the air hit her face, until she could finally breathe. Then her phone buzzed. Nova, how did it go? Arya stared at the message, then typed. I didn't back down. A pause, then another buzz. Then neither will I. Later that night, she found Nova in the gallery alone, painting in near darkness. She stood in the doorway and watched her. Watched the way she moved like her whole soul was in her hands. You came, Nova said without turning. Of course I did. Did they fire you? They're still deciding. Nova set her brush down, turned to face her. Are you scared? Only of losing you. Then don't. Arya crossed the room, kissed her, not like someone who might lose, but like someone who had already won. Because win or lose, this was the only legacy that mattered now. The message came at 3:14 p.m. Arya had been pretending to work, seated at her desk, staring at numbers she didn't care about anymore, sipping a coffee that had long gone cold. The notification buzzed like a warning. The board has reached a decision. Her heart thudded at once, then again, but slower, heavier. She opened the message without ceremony. Effective immediately. The board has voted 6-3 in favor of removing Arya Kincaid from her position as CEO. Her eyes didn't move. Her breath didn't falter. She just stared at the words like they belonged to someone else. Fired. After everything. After building the company from her living room. After late nights and blood and sweat and battles and victories. After choosing truth over strategy, she had been cut loose. Just like that, she stood quietly, walked out of her office, ignoring the shocked faces, the hushed voices, the way the building seemed to know. She didn't wait for a car, didn't text Nova. She just walked through the city, through the ache, through the disbelief. The fall of an empire didn't sound like thunder. It sounded like silence. Her silence. But somewhere along the walk, something in her shifted. She wasn't collapsing. She wasn't breaking. She wasn't even angry. She felt something else instead. Freedom. She had nothing to lose anymore. No title, no throne, no cage. She found herself outside the gallery without even realizing it. The lights were on. Nova was inside laughing with two women Arya didn't recognize. Buyers probably, or artists. It didn't matter. Arya stood there for a moment, watching her through the window, watching the way she glowed. No one had taken that from her. No headline, no lie, no betrayal. Nova was still hers. When she finally stepped inside, Nova looked up anew. Instantly they did it. Yes. Are you okay? I think I'm better than I should be. Do you regret it? Only that I didn't do it sooner. Nova walked to her. You're free now. Yes, but I'm also unemployed. Nova smiled. You're not the type to stay unemployed. No, Arya said. But I might take a few days to remember who I am outside of Kincaid. You'll figure it out. Not alone. No, Nova said. Not anymore. But the moment didn't stay quiet because her phone buzzed again. Arya checked it. Another notification, this time from a social feed. Then another, trending everywhere. Hashtag stand with Arya. #love is not a weakness. #Kincaid still stands. The world had seen her fall and didn't want her gone. The posts she'd made about Nova had gone viral. Not in the scandalous way the board feared. In the human way. People weren't mocking her. They were celebrating her. Her inbox was full. Messages from investors, colleagues, even rivals, offers, support, invitations to speak, to lead, to build again, because something had changed. She wasn't just a CEO. She was someone who chose love. And the world, some of it at least, wanted more of that. I don't think I'm finished, Arya said. Nova raised an eyebrow. With what? With building. Just differently. What are you thinking? Something that doesn't belong to shareholders. Something we control. Something that matters. Nova smiled. Us? Yes, Arya said, her voice lowful. And whatever comes next that night. They lay on Nova's couch, scrolling through the flood of support. Artists quoting Nova. Entrepreneurs defending Arya. Strangers telling their stories. Love wasn't a scandal anymore. It was a revolution. And they were in the center of it. Not hiding. Not pretending. Just being. Arya pressed a kiss to Nova's shoulder. Thank you for not letting me hide. Nova turned to her. Thank you for finally choosing to be seen. Neither of them said, I love you again. That night, they didn't need to. They were building something stronger than words, something real together. Arya had always known how to build startups, systems, empires. She could spot a gap in the market in seconds, predict user behavior before the data even loaded. She thrived in the language of power, mergers, patents, strategy. But now, sitting across the table from Nova in a quiet cafe in Echo Park with no bodyguards, no assistants, no title to hide behind, she realized she didn't know how to build something that wasn't meant to be controlled. Because Nova wasn't a project. This wasn't an acquisition. This was something messier, something softer, something real. Nova sipped her espresso, her hair still damp from the shower, skin glowing in the early morning light. You haven't said a word since we sat down, she said. I'm thinking. You're always thinking. That's how I avoid feeling. Nova smiled without humor. I notice. Arya looked down at the untouched croissant on her plate. I want to build something new, something we own together. Nova tilted her head. We, you and me, not just romantically, creatively, professionally. Something that matters. Not just tech for profit, but tech for people. That's the ambitious. So am I. Nova leaned back, studying her. What would that even look like? I don't know yet, Arya admitted. But I know how to design systems. And you know how to create experiences that make people feel. We're opposites. But that's the point. We could build something that changes how people connect. Something immersive, artistic, emotional, tech, and art, Nova said slowly. Merging instead of competing. Exactly. What would we even call it? Something honest, Arya said. Something brave. Nova stared at her for a long time. You really mean it. You want me in this. Then one afternoon, Nova walked into their small rented workspace holding her phone. Pale and wide-eyed. It happened. What happened? That art tech blog. The one that dragged us both in the beginning. They just published a full feature. What kind of feature? A love letter to us. To SNTH. She handed Arya the phone. The headline read, When Tech Found Its Soul Inside the Wild. Messy beautiful vision of SYNTH. The article was long, emotional, raw. It praised Nova's vulnerability, Arya's vision, their tension, their tenderness. People are listening, Nova whispered. They're getting it. Arya didn't say anything at first. Just sat down, exhaled. We did it. We're doing it. Nova corrected. This is just the start. That night, Arya took her to the roof of their building. No press, no show, just city lights and the sound of cars below. What is this? Nova asked. Arya pulled something from her coat pocket. A chain, silver simple. On it, a small charm, a single engraved letter. N. You once said you didn't want to be a secret, Arya said. Now you never will be again. Nova's eyes filled. You made this, designed it, had it printed yesterday. Why? Because for the first time, I'm building something that has nothing to do with stock options or press releases. I'm building us. And I wanted a reminder. Something permanent. Nova put it on, then kissed her. Not fast, not desperate, just full of meaning, of memory, of promise. It wasn't a ring. Not yet. But it was something real. And they weren't just building an app now. They were building a life. The launch of STH wasn't just successful. It was seismic. Within 72 hours, the app had over 200,000 users. Not empty clicks. Not curious trolls. Real people. Artists. Survivors. Lovers. People hungry for something that felt human in a world full of noise. Articles poured in. First from the niche outlets, then the mainstream tech with a soul. The platform that redefines connection, a queer-led creative revolution. Arya had been featured before on Forbes covers, in industry power lists, in sanitized interviews about market disruption. But this was different. This wasn't about her success. It was about what she was building with Nova. And that made it dangerous because now everything felt real. Too real. Arya was used to praise. She didn't know how to carry vulnerability, and vulnerability was exactly what Esset demanded. She sat in the back of their new downtown office space, staring at her laptop, watching numbers skyrocket while her chest tightened. Not from fear, from something worse, doubt. Nova entered the room like a storm wrapped in silk, paint on her wrists, passion in her stride, eyes shining from her last creative meeting. She paused when she saw Arya. You okay? Arya nodded. Just tired. You haven't left that chair in hours. Neither have you. Nova smiled. True. But I'm high on this momentum. Can't you feel it? I feel something, Arya said, but I don't know if it's momentum or pressure. Nova sat beside her, resting her head on Arya's shoulder. They love us. Finally. They love what we made. Arya whispered. Not necessarily us. You don't believe that. I believe that love is fragile, especially when it's new and loud and public. Nova didn't argue. She just listened. And that more than any reassurance helped Arya breathe again. But the calm didn't last. That week, a venture capital firm reached out with a proposal. Massive funding, global expansion, all on one condition. That Nova stepped back. She's a visionary, the lead investor said in the call. Slick and patronizing. But the brand needs focus. One face, one message, and that face is mine. Arya asked flat. You're the known entity, the power name. She's the wild card. Arya didn't respond. She ended the call without another word. But the damage had already begun, because now the question had been planted. Would S&TH be stronger without Nova in the spotlight? And worse, was Arya strong enough to say no? Nova sensed it before Arya spoke. They were in the studio working side by side when she paused and asked, "What happened?" Arya froze. "What do you mean?" Something shifted. "You're pulling back. Quiet. Calculating. Investors called and they made an offer." Nova wiped her hands. "Tell me they want to scale globally fast. Inject millions. And they want you out of the public brand." Nova didn't speak for a long time. Just stared at the canvas in front of her like it had betrayed her too. "Of course they do. I said no." That made Nova look at her. "You did." "Of course I did. Because it would have been easy not to." "I know. And tempting." "Yes. So why didn't you?" Arya's voice cracked. "Because I built my last empire by climbing over people. I won't build this one by erasing the person who made me human again." Nova stepped closer. Soft voice steel. "Don't you dare forget who you are, Arya. You're not them. You're not Graham. You're not Lydia. You don't need to choose power over love. Not anymore." Arya cupped her face. "I know. But some days I forget. I fall into the rhythm of who I used to be. Then I'll remind you. Every time that night they didn't talk about business or threats or money. They cooked badly, burned pasta, laughed too loud, kissed too long. And when they curled into each other on the couch, Arya whispered, 'What if this is it?' What do you mean? What if this is the happiest we'll ever be?" Nova kissed her temple. "Then let's stay here as long as we can. But fate doesn't pause for perfect moments." The next morning, Nova received an anonymous envelope at the gallery. Inside was a photograph blurry from weeks ago. Arya on the sidewalk talking to Lydia. Too close, too familiar. No context, no timestamp, just implication and a type note. Some lies don't fade, especially when you build a company on them. Nova didn't tell Arya. Not right away. She tried to convince herself it meant nothing. But the old fears woke anyway, not about Arya's love, but about what Arya might still be hiding. And for the first time in weeks, Nova didn't go home. She didn't sleep either. Not because she didn't want to, but because sleep felt like surrender, and she refused to yield to the weight pressing on her chest. The envelope with the photo sat on her kitchen table like a loaded weapon. She stared at it, willing it to disappear, to turn meaningless. It didn't. It kept whispering what she didn't want to face. Maybe she'd fallen too fast, trusted too much, given too completely. Maybe Arya hadn't changed. Maybe this beautiful thing was still built on secrets. By morning, her phone had chimed 16 times. Arya's missed calls, texts. "Where are you, Nova? Please talk to me." She didn't respond, not because she didn't want to, but because she feared the one sentence she wouldn't be able to unhear. It was nothing. If Arya said that, it would be something a lie, and Nova had promised herself, never again. But love has gravity. No matter how far you drift, it pulls. So at 10:42 a.m., Nova walked into the Synnth office with the envelope in her hand and a tight ache in her chest. Arya was already there, pacing pale, panicked. At the sight of her, Arya went still. "God, Nova." Nova held up the envelope. "Tell me." Arya didn't flinch. She took it, opened it, saw the photo and shut her eyes like the memory physically hurt. "She cornered me outside the building. Said she wanted closure. I didn't invite her. I didn't want her there. You didn't tell me. Because I didn't want to give her space in our life. That wasn't your decision." Arya met her gaze, eyes red-rimmed but steady. "I was afraid. Not of her, of you, of this. I've never had anything worth protecting like this. I didn't know how to hold it without breaking it." Nova stepped closer, voice tight. "That's not an excuse. I know. It's the truth. And I'm sorry. Do you still love her? No. Do you still owe her anything? Not anymore. Then answer me one thing, Nova said. Am I the only truth left in your life? Arya moved toward her. You're the only one I want to build truth with. Everything else skincade tech. The board, the titles was survival. This is living. For a long beat, the room held nothing but silence, breath, heartbeat. Then Nova nodded. Okay. But you don't get to disappear into your silence anymore. If we do this, we do it raw, open, loud. No more control. Arya reached for her hand. Deal? That night, they stood in front of a packed venue, an audience of developers, artists, activists, and strangers who had found pieces of themselves in S. It was their first joint appearance. Nova wore black silk and paint beneath her fingernails. Arya wore no makeup and the necklace she'd made for Nova tucked under her blouse. People think this platform started with a kiss, Nova said, speaking first. It didn't. It started with pain, Arya continued, and fear and control. But it turned into something real, Nova said. Not because it was perfect, but because it wasn't, Arya finished. Because love isn't clean code. It's messy. It crashes. It burns. But when it works, God, when it works, it rewrites everything, Nova said. And the room stood applauded, cheered, because it wasn't just about the tech anymore. It was about them, about two women who had met in a lie and fought their way into something true. And went global within a month. They declined 5 more investment offers, chose independence, chose each other, moved into a quiet home with wide windows and loud mornings, built a life of art and light and late-night coding. 1 year later, Arya proposed. No flash, no press. Just a question whispered against Nova's neck as they danced barefoot in the kitchen. And Nova said yes, not because it was perfect, but because it was theirs. Because in the end, the billionaire who hired a fake date to survive her ex's engagement party didn't just steal the spotlight. She found her soulmate in the woman who refused to play a part. And the love they created, it wasn't for show. It was real. It was lasting, and it was home. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.